After my brother killed himself, I wasn't depressed. Or I wasn't depressed. I was more like manic depressed, but not cyclical. I was like super energized and super sad all at the same time. I'm driving back Sunday night and I'm remembering the past 3 weeks of this intense grieving I was doing with my family and my brother's friends, and all these fully formed ideas of how to heal the world would just pop into my head. I would write a book about my brother's life and death. I would start a school for atypical learners where they could be heard and cared for. I would become a professional suicide grief counselor. But then I realized that Monday morning was coming and I had to go to work, where no one would talk about suicide or grief or healing. And then I was just depressed. But then I got the call. Did you hear about Victor? I knew Victor generally as this jolly 18-year-old from the Quaker high school program that I worked with. And I'd pulled off to take the call from another adult who worked in the program. No, what's up with Victor? He found his dad's body in the backyard after his dad shot himself. You should give him a call. Now, I'm not sure what the appropriate response is to news like this, but that's great is probably not it. But I was excited. Here was my chance to educate troubled teens, to counsel those grieving after suicide. Here was my chance to use my manic depressive energy to heal the world. So I gave Victor a call, and we hung out a bit, and I realized he didn't really have the best home situation. So I invited him to move into my free second bedroom. A wayward 18-year-old moving in with a 40-year-old bachelor, both grieving recent family suicides. What could go wrong? So it's a couple weeks later, and I'm helping Victor move his stuff into my house, and Victor turns to me and says, "Can you buy me beer?" I hadn't really thought through all the issues that might arise. No, Victor, I told him, I can't buy you beer. He seemed okay with this. He came in and plunked himself down on the green futon couch and started fiddling with the remotes. How do you turn on the cable? I don't have cable, Victor. Now he really seemed upset. But how am I gonna watch The Dark Knight Returns? Look, Victor, this is your house, you live here too. I'll get cable, I'll put in my name, but you'll pay for it. When the bills come, I'm just gonna hand them to you. You can pay for them with that job you're gonna get. So we'd worked out the basics of living together, Victor and I. But every night when I came home from work, I wasn't sure what I would encounter. One night I came back and there was loud music I could hear before I even got to the door. And I came in and I turned the stereo down and Victor said, well, the neighbor, she kept on knocking on the door and complaining about the music, and I realized if I turned it up louder, I couldn't hear the knocking. He's been through a lot, and he was learning to think outside the box. Another night I came home, and I heard this female giggle coming from the house, and I came in the door, and there's this 15-year-old female friend of Victor, cuddling with him on the couch. And mysteriously, there was this fine white powder that covered the entire first floor. We were making brownies, and we got into a food fight with the flour. He's been through a lot. He's learning how to cook for himself. So we lived together, Victor and I, and after a couple months, it came time for me to take a trip up to Vermont. And on the way back, I had to stop and get gas, and so I was putting my ATM card in the gas machine, and I realized it wasn't working, and I thought, that's weird. Like, I just put $500 in my account. So I called up the bank, and they told me that someone had written a check in my name for $657.23 to the cable company for several months of unpaid bills to get the cable turned back on. I borrowed some money from a friend of mine to get enough gas to get home, but the whole way going back, my mind was racing. I mean, Victor's been through a lot, and I need to support him, but he violated my trust, and he really pissed me off. But where else is he gonna go? But, you know, he stole money from me. I can't have him in my house, but it's only a couple $100. What's the big deal? So all these thoughts are still just racing through my head as I approached the front door. And I could hear music coming from a cable movie as I got to the front door and I opened the door, and Victor was sitting on there, laying on the futon couch in his boxers and t-shirt, and he sort of got himself up into a seated position, and I turned to him and said, "Victor, I know you forged a check in my name. But, he said, look, Victor, don't make this any worse. I'm gonna go away for about 4 hours. When I come back, I want you gone." So I went away for 4 hours, and I came back to the front door again, and I noticed something strange. There was no music coming from the house, no cable movie sounds, no animated conversation. It was quiet. And I came into the house and I sat down on the green futon couch. And I realized it wasn't really about Victor after all. That all my focus on Victor had kept me from seeing the truth that my brother was really dead.
It's been a long day without you, my friend.